So you see my cervical spine below, and you see the bone spurs on that. Well, how did I get them? I don't know. The chart here shows where I am. The black arrow shows I'm pretty much in the middle through all these elements here. So when you take your blood, you find out what nutrients, like your DHEA, or what molecules, what hormones you have, and where you should be for your age, within your body, and your lifestyle. So this is one thing that you can do DIY. It's the most pragmatic thing you can do. Find out where your shortcomings are in your body, in your brain, your lifestyle, and then get the MRIs, the X-rays, the blood tests, everything that you can do to know right now where you are. Okay, but that's not so stunning when we consider that alchemy has been around for a very long time, and that throughout the ages, civilization has been very curious about what goes on in the body, and where people are, and what goes on after death, and recycling. I live with the Navajo Indians, and part of the practice with the medicine man, the tribe I lived with, was to do a ritual that was on a daily basis to be reborn, and that was very, very lovely. You have alchemists who practice different type of metallurgy with gold as far as immortality and life extension, which is fascinating as well. So there's a whole history of the body and chemistry and exercise, aerobic, anaerobic, etc. But it all fits into what you can do with yourself now as you maintain a knowledge-based plasticity. As far as DIY is concerned, these are a couple of groups that are doing some very fascinating work. Some that's a little dangerous. If you know what biological art is, or bio-art, it's where artists are now working in laboratories rather than painting with chemicals. We are working with stem cell cloning and transgenesis and genetic engineering and building different types of life forms, organisms, whatnot. There's a whole new area coming up that's not in the arts. This is with just the average citizen scientist. I think that's the name of it, scientist citizen or citizen scientist. I think it's right up here. Citizen scientist. It's a new term, and it's going to start making big headway because it's taking the quietude of the laboratory and what the scientists are doing with biotechnology and genetic engineering, and taking it out into laboratories where the average citizen scientist is starting to take a look at how he or she can build these type of instrumentations to discover their own particular biology. A little bit dangerous to be sure, but there are some safeguards. So you have DIY Bio, which is growing. It's on the internet. It's a group of mostly college students that are kind of reminiscent of the Silicon Valley with the computer programmers working out of their garage. Well, they say they have garages to build their machines. DIY Genomics is another group that's growing very quickly. My H+ lab. And then there's the biopunk. There always has to be a biopunk, so I think that was kind of clever and funny, making a play on the cyberpunks. But this shows that besides what I'm saying about DIY, which is more theoretical and a bit of practice according to right now, these groups, and partially the H+ lab, these groups are being very proactive. I mean, they're really activists and saying, no, by God, we're going to look at our own DNA, we're going to look at our genome, we're going to find out what we can do to rearrange our own system in areas that we need to find out what's going on. So I find that very curious. I'm interested to see what the socio-political ramifications of that are. So to frame this in closing, bring it back to how I preface this particular area of DIY enhancement. It might be sexier for me to come up here and talk about nanotechnology, biotechnology, cognitive science, information technology, with uploads and whatnot, but I wanted to be more pragmatic about it because I think that's what we need to focus on at this point in time. We have enough of the great visionary science fiction that has been a great precursor to many of the ideas today. And I think that once we start looking at it more pragmatically, we can get a stronger handle on it. And I think that the ideas will grow exponentially with that in mind. So, second order enhancement cybernetics looks at enhancing systems with while the observer is in the process. The observer is the modeler, not just looking at the model, but we are modeling ourselves. And the theories of the interactions between the body, brain, behavior, and social ecology. I think that's a really interesting mix of ways to consider brain plasticity, body mobility, and prosthesis, and our behavior, how we're adapting what we learn, what we grow in that spiraling cybernetic system, and the social ecology, how we affect each other, and what are going to be the outcome of our effects on each other, ourselves, and the environment. To wrap up here, I broke it down in just a couple of different areas that I'll go over. The knowledge, the epistemology is just basically that it's located in technology. Any type of enhancement is located in science and technology. So there's nothing new there. I think the key distinction is that if we look at human enhancement and our own enhancement as part of a system, especially as part of a second-order cybernetic system, it takes on a whole new tone that ties in very neatly to the biological computer laboratory of von Forster and the early folks working with, like Marvin Minsky was part of it, and Stuart Brand, and a number of others that are heavy hitters in the early stages of AI and its successor, AGI. Puzzle to be solved here is, I think, one of the more interesting areas that could be really taken up by wearable design and immersive design, which is the how to experience the relationship between body and behavior and social ecology with an enhancing system. And I think the only way we can do that now is to experience it in a virtual environment, to have simulated systems where we go in and we experience it firsthand. Because once you talk about it, or you read about it, it's okay, that's fine. But unless you experience it firsthand and have those sensations, you can develop either a love or a distaste for it, then you'll know for sure. Otherwise, we can only be standby. Like, what did they call it? You pass by an accident, you're Google eyes, I can't remember what it's called, but rubbernecks. I think that's constantly looking and trying to figure out. So I think that one of the big areas that will come about, especially in the DIY enhancement, is immersive environments of virtual reality where you can experience design it. Okay, and then a key assumption, and I think that's the last one I'm going to focus on here, is that to enhance, to think of being a transhumanist, or to consider posthumanity, or to want to improve the human condition, which we talk about so much, that is human-centric, that is anthropocentric, that is narcissistic, that we're self-involved, we're the haves, we're the elitists. And I found that very peculiar because I always looked at it slightly to the contrary, that those of us who want to enhance probably want to because we've been ill in the past. Like, have had, like me, cancer several times or different diseases, or have come from an environment where you've seen suffering and sorrow so great that you have a passion for it because you've experienced that firsthand. Or you just have an intellectual inclination for it. So it's not so much narcissistic or elitist or human-centric in that sense. It's more of an insight and an understanding and a desire to see life extended and refreshed, people refreshed, and more imagination and less pains in the world that we've had. I know many people who are in a wheelchair who have suffered from accidents, and I keep on hoping that stem cells for spinal repair will come about, but it's taking quite some time. And I think that all of us know someone, if not ourselves, someone that we care about or just know distantly who has a condition that is right on the verge of being solved. And we hope that it comes about. We get gleeful when we read in the paper, in a magazine, or in a documentary how this is just coming about. There's been so many good movies about this and stories about it. So there is this joy, this desire that we have. But within the feasibility of it, I think it's important for us to reflect on our own plasticity, especially in our brain. Thank you.